Welcome back, or welcome if you're just joining us. This is the France 24 debate. We're looking at a record abstention rate in the first round of French local elections, nearly 38%, nearly 39%, excuse me. And also the surge of the far right. We're talking about with Yves BERTONCINI, director of the Jacques Delors Institute, Laurent PINSOLLE of the neo-Gaullist Debout, La République party, France 24's Cyril VANIER, just back from the town of Hénin-Beaumont in northern France, the largest ever won by the National Front in the first round. Nearly 30,000 people live there. And correspondent for RTL4, Stefan de VRIES. Couple of results that a lot of our viewers have been asking about. Here in the capital, a surprise coming, this time not from the far right, but from the Greens, polling nearly 9% and stymieing the incumbent socialists' hopes of finishing tops going into next Sunday's runoff. It's former Sarkozy minister and campaign manager Nathalie Kosciusko-Morizet, who is ahead of the socialist Anne Hidalgo in that race. And of course, the other result that we were talking about before the break, and that is the big surprise, is the result out of Marseille, where the socialists have been relegated to third place going into next Sunday's runoff, behind the incumbent from the conservative UMP party and the National Front. There you see the National Front on more than 23%. Cyril VANIER, you've also traveled at times to Marseille. This is, I know that politics in Marseille can be a little bit, how should we say it, complicated, but the socialists in third place behind the National Front.
Well, I think this just feeds into there are always, you have to look at the specific angles to each specific vote. It's very important. The French will tell you, and the polls have shown this, a majority of French, 2/3, I believe, of French voters say that they vote first and foremost according to local issues. So you have to be knowledgeable about the local Marseille political environment to really analyze this. What I can say from my perspective, having been following the National Front, is the high score of the National Front is at least partly due to the national context, as we were saying earlier. Marine Le Pen, currently a figure that is well liked, does not have that air of taboo and danger that her father had, Jean-Marie Le Pen. The economic situation, as you were saying earlier, the economic situation is bad. Not only is it bad, but it's been bad for a long time, which is a point you were making earlier. All of these things feed into the National Front electorate. And if they now have the feeling, this is certainly what I heard where I was, a lot of people have the feeling, well, François Hollande has been in power for 2 years. What's he done? What's he done against unemployment? Unemployment continues to rise. And I think that's one of the main factors you have to look at nationwide when you analyze the National Front vote.
It was not a great night, Stefan de VRIES, for the Conservatives either. I mean, they made inroads, but they didn't win any of the major cities. Perhaps there's a runoff coming up in Strasbourg, which could be interesting. But the big cities, there haven't been many swings.
No, I think there are like 20 cities that have changed from the left to the right. I don't know exactly the numbers, but approximately. There have been a lot of scandals the last couple of weeks. I don't think, I'm not really sure if this affected the results of the right-wing party, but you know, they were also in power for 10, 12 years, and they were also responsible for the very high unemployment, because the high unemployment doesn't date from just after the crisis. They are also responsible for the bad economic situation of this country. And I think people just don't forget. And so, yeah, it's not a huge success, because theoretically they would be the only opposition party, real opposition party in France, but they didn't really profit from the bad results of the socialists.
How do you handle then the far right?
First, I think French people should have a choice between different political offers. And I think one of the main assets of the National Front in France is the fact that voters do not see such a big difference between the Socialist Party and the UMP. Because they voted all the European treaties. They are saying that finance is bad, but once in power, they do nothing. So in fact, I think that French people do see that there is a huge crisis, they suffer from it, they have politicians saying that they are going to do things, and in the end, they do not see much difference between the Socialist Party and the UMP. So therefore, some of them tend to vote for the National Front. And that's why I think the result of the National Front is not that good, because the current context is the best context for the National Front. Huge crisis since 6 years, major failure of Hollande, UMP not very strong in the last 2 years, several scandals, and in fact 4.5%. Okay, there is Marseille, but it's a peculiar geographic situation, and
France's second largest city.
When we look at Europe, for example, in Spain, there is a bigger difference between the right and the left. And maybe that's one of the reasons why there is no far right in Spain. When citizens see that there is a change when they do vote for another majority, then maybe they don't need a far right party.
You're absolutely right, if I may. I mean, this is something that when you say that there isn't a very big difference between the left and the right, I'm talking about voter perception here. Certainly, that's how voters in Beaumont perceived it. That's something they'll tell you regularly. The left and the right have been doing the same, carrying out the same policies. And it's really striking, François, to look at all the political reactions on TV. Watch the political reactions from the main party leaders alongside the Front National supporters in Beaumont. You realize party leaders are not talking to them. Party leaders are saying things like, the Front National is not Republican. Well, that doesn't cut it. When you have half of a population that is voting for that party, you can't just tell them you're outside the political game. And we have to all... the left and the right have to all get together and somehow exclude you from the political landscape. What do you think those people think when they hear that on TV? They just think, this guy's not talking to me. I was right to vote for the National Front candidate.
Oh dear, cue the Prime Minister of France this Monday, the Socialists, calling on candidates in several towns to bow out of the runoff and endorse the mainstream right. France's Prime Minister, after the polls closed late Sunday, already calling for what's known in this country as a Republican front to limit the number of National Front mayors.
In the areas where the Front National have made it through to the second round, all Democratic and Republican voices need to come together. And we have a responsibility to stop them. I'm appealing to all voters to come to the polls next Sunday to stop the Front National, and in particular those who chose to abstain from this first round of the vote.
Now, the leader of the UMP shrugging off that suggestion.
No alliance with the National Front, nor should people vote for the Socialists, who are allied with the party of the left. Unfortunately, be it the extreme right or the extreme left, they're fighting the same battles which have nothing to do with what is good for this country.
Yves Bertoncini, do you agree with the leader of the Conservatives there that there shouldn't be these Republican front alliances against National Front?
It all depends if you put the debate on moral grounds or political ones. I mean, I can understand the moral reaction of the Prime Minister. If he believes that the Front National is a fascist party, an extremist party, he said we should prevent our cities to be led by these people. I mean, we have examples, Toulon, Marignane. The result was not that good, let's say. So this is a moral reaction I can understand and share. But the thing is that if you moralize politics, you don't grasp the realities. The reality is what you have described. You have people looking at a very difficult situation, living a very difficult situation, and looking for alternatives. True that the alternative can't be the UMP at the moment. That is a problem of France, because if you mention Spain, you have two differences. You have an opposition which is more or less credible, more or less, plus the kind of inhibition as regards the extreme right vote in Spain for historical reasons. The same in Germany, by the way. So, yes, there is a need for alternative, But I mean, with concrete proposal to fix the problems of France. I don't vote for the Front National. This is not a scoop. But when they say that basically there are problems which have not been fixed by the UMP or the PS for 2 decades, they are not that wrong. And then people can share their position. The fact is that would their solution, that is the question, would their solutions be better? I have a very, very big doubt about this, but as they have not been tried yet, you can have the temptation of the voters.
All right, let me ask you this. First of all, I'll read you a reaction. We've been getting a lot of them. One saying, I'm deeply saddened by the outcome of the elections. I hope both the Socialists and the Conservative UMP will overcome and stabilize the situation. The Rhone Valley city of Avignon, where the far right could win City Hall next Sunday. It has a world-famous theater festival, and the director of that theater festival this Monday saying, if the National Front wins in Avignon, I'll be pulling my theater festival out of that city. Do you agree with that theater festival director?
I would say yes in this case, precisely because he's not a politician. He's an artist. He can feel easy in Avignon or less easy. So, I mean, he's not a politician. His job is not to solve France's problem in terms of unemployment and insecurity. So, yes, I agree with this position.
Laurent PINSOLLE?
I'm not sure it's a very good idea to say that. When I hear this person, the one in Avignon, or the Prime Minister, I think it's just plain advertising for the National Front. Because then Marine Le Pen can say, you can look, the Socialist Party is preferring the UMP to the National Front. So there is a UMPS. So I don't think it's the way the National Front must be fought. I think there is a way to fight the National Front, but doing it that way, it's completely unproductive.
Yeah, bottom line, you have to fight them on their policies.
Yeah, exactly.
If you just punish people for voting a certain thing,
you see the arrogance of the Prime Minister. He's really not connected with the people. When he says a Republican front, I think that's not very Republican, because the Front National, if you like the party or not, is a legal party. If you have a problem with this party, then you should take legal actions. But it's part of the system, and it's called democracy. And I find it really shocking that people are calling themselves Republicans and then calling for a Republican front. And I totally agree with Yves and Cyril here that it's and you as well, it's the best advertising for the Front National. And this is exactly what the government shouldn't do. What they should do is solve people's problems and not hammering on the Front National, because that's only, well, good business for Marine Le Pen.
Which brings us to those European elections you were mentioning. We're 2 months away from those elections. The whole continent will be picking a new European Parliament. Now, Eurosceptics of various shades range from the Tories in Britain to the National Front here in France. If you look at this pie chart of the current outgoing Parliament, everything that's to the right of that deep blue block, which is the mainstream conservatives, is various shades of far right. Yves Bertoncini, have you been crunching the numbers? How are Eurosceptics going to be doing in the upcoming European elections?
Eurosceptics as a whole could be 200 seats. But
which is
as
nearly
you have
double
said,
what they have now.
No, a bit less than double. But I mean, yes, a surge, yes, that we can say, a surge. But as you have said, there are different shades, and more than shades, subfamilies. Don't forget the radical left. The radical left, for example, in Spain, yes, you will see progress of the radical left. Nothing from the extreme right in Spain. And then on the right, you have also different parties. I mean, the UKIP and Cameron, they are fighting each other. They're not the same bloc, the same family. They're fighting each other. Not to mention the British National Party, a third party, a third group. So in fact, it's not a family. It's not a political family. If you look at the parliament, you have the Socialists. This is a family, a consistent political family, which may lead the European Parliament, by the way, but not the extreme right and not the Eurosceptic at large.
But it is nonetheless a surge, and this dissatisfaction with the mainstream parties, the mainstream left of center, right of center parties in France, is reflected at the European level.
Not in all countries. but I mean, globally speaking, yes, but look at Germany, you have the AfD, Alternative for Deutschland, it's not extreme right. In Italy, you have the Cinque Stelle movement, it's not extreme right either. It's something different, let's say. But then the key question in this campaign is not, will they win? The Eurosceptics won't win. In terms of seats, they won't win. But they can win the battle in terms of agenda setting and in terms of ideas. It's exactly what's happening in the UK. In the UK, Cameron is taking UKIP's stance, trying to weaken the UKIP. It doesn't work at all. But I mean, the ideas of the UKIP are on board. So that will be the challenge in countries like France. Will other parties take on board the ideas of the Front National or of the radical left or not? This is more challenging than the simple number of seats.
And which brings us to how your party positions itself.
We have lists for France, as in 2009, but as it is the second time we are presenting some lists in France, right now we are far stronger than we were 5 years ago. So we have started our campaign months ago, everywhere in France.
And you consider yourself a Eurosceptic?
I would consider myself a Euro-realist, because I think that the reality right now is that the current European project is not working at all, and it needs to be fixed. We have proposed solutions. Of course, it would be completely different from what it is right now. It would not be a unified Europe. It would be a Europe of cooperations, where the power and the ability to decide would remain in countries, so that politicians and governments would have to respond to their citizens when they decide to do something. And without this kind of center with the European Bank, the Commission, that is trying to uniformize everything, and it's just crazy, it's not working. It's silly to have the same policy for Greece and Germany. That's why Europe is in such a bad situation right now. What we want is the Europe of Airbus, of Ariane, where we could cooperate, not all time at 28 countries. We could cooperate sometimes at 2 or 3 countries, maybe 10. There could be maybe 2 packs, one for the countries that feel that it's important to control its food, and we could maybe do that with Poland and Germany, and the countries that are willing to buy everything on the world market, like...
All right, so the idea being that more sovereign nations and less decision-making out of Brussels...
No decision-making at all in Brussels.
And Frankfurt. Yves BERTONCINI.
Right, I'm back from the USA. You know, they don't like Washington at all. But I mean, they need Washington. I mean, if you don't have institutions, especially to act at the global level, I mean, to forge unity and to be more influent at the global level, it doesn't work. But it's true that, as Delors has said, we are in a federation of nation states. So you need some federal elements, but all the rest is dealt with at the national level. That's precisely why you have bad results in France and good results in Germany. I mean, Europe, Brussels, Europe is a scapegoat. I mean, you have if you look at the unemployment rate, you have 6% in Germany, 12% in France. In the same Europe, in the same monetary union, 6%, 12%. So I won't say here that Europe is perfect. It can't be. It can't be. A compromise of 28 countries can't be. It should not interfere in all fields. But a last example, take Putin. Let's take Putin. I mean, this is a challenge. So do we react on a case-by-case basis, each separately, or should we be more united? That is the key challenge of the election as well.
When you were in Abignon, did you get a sense of what kind of Europe the voters there wanted?
The sense that you get when you speak to people in that part of France is that Europe is a threat. Europe is an economic threat to them. And I heard somebody on your set last week say that when you look specifically at that regional context, factories closing one after the other, you're talking about a region here that is essentially the losers of globalization. The words of one of your guests last week, and I think he was entirely right. And that's why the people will tell you, look, when you're in Paris, you don't see them, but we see the trucks coming, driving through our villages coming from Poland. And these people are bringing goods from Poland that would otherwise have been made in France. And workers are coming from Poland. So bottom line, they see Europe as an economic threat, not a land of political or economic opportunity.
Yeah, I would say something different, because actually the people in Henin and Beaumont see Europe as an economic threat, but actually the reason that they're unemployed is because they're French, because it's next to the Belgian border, to Flanders, where there's very few unemployment, where there are lots of jobs. And I've been there as well. And the people of the unemployment agencies in Flanders, they want to hire all these people from this region. And these people refuse to learn Dutch because it's another country. So instead of traveling, we are talking 20 kilometers, 15 miles, where there's a lot of jobs. They simply refuse to go there. So whose fault is it? Is it Brussels, or is it the national education in France who refuses to teach languages, for instance? So it's very simple to say, yeah, it's all the fault of Europe. But basically, people are just in Europe. They don't travel. They don't want to travel for a job. They're too lazy. It's simple as that.
Couldn't people just be willing to live close to their family when they have children?
We're talking 15
be close
kilometers.
to their...
15 kilometers, there's a lot of work with double the salary. Why don't they go there? Because they're too lazy.
I don't... Too lazy.
Too lazy to learn
It's
Dutch.
Storytelling.
No.
It's storytelling.
Go there and you'll see there's a lot of work.
It's the same about the European crisis, where we say that Southern Europe are lazy people.
If there's a job on 15 miles from your home and you don't go there,
you
why
know
not?
that many Greeks, many Italians, many Spaniards have quit their country to find jobs right now.
And they found
and
jobs.
For most of them, it was very hard because they had to cut with their families, with their friends. It's not easy.
But whose fault is it? Is it
People
Brussels?
should have the choice. They should have the choice to have jobs close to their home and be able to find a job close to their homes, or go elsewhere if they want to.
I think 15 kilometers is very close to a job.
People are not an adjustment variable, and that's the trouble with your logic. With your logic, people, they need to adapt to the economy. What we
course.
want to
Why
do
not?
is to adapt the economy to the people.
And who's going to
that's
pay
a
that?
huge difference.
That's the whole problem. Who's going to pay that?
Yves Bertoncini.
We are going to
Two
adjust to imports.
Two quick examples. 300,000 people, French people, every day are cross-border workers. So there are 300,000 French people every day going to work in Germany, in Belgium. So they're not lazy, and they're doing it in Switzerland as well. So maybe they should be more, but 300,000 people. Only 12,000 Europeans working in France on a daily basis. So very, very interesting for France and for French people. 300,000, they are doing it. So, but yes, there will be a debate on free movement of people in Europe, and there is danger there. You've mentioned the Polish plumber, so-called Polish plumber. The key question of the election is that should we talk about the Polish plumber, or should we talk about the Russian autocrat? Because it's also about Vladimir Putin, the European integration. It's not only about the Polish plumber, the free movement of people, which can create problems to specific regions or people, but which help people living in France today, 300,000 people a day. And another example, striking example, the monetary union, the euro. I mean, if you ask the French and many others in Europe, do you love it? They don't love it. Do you want to quit? No, we don't want. Why don't they want? It's the same in the Netherlands, by the way, when Geert Wilders tried to say, well, we should quit the euro. Not at all a success, a failure. Why is that? Because people know that if we are back to the national currency, we will be confronted on our own to the financial global speculation, and they don't want this. They know that we will be confronted to a monetary war, because national monetarism is monetary war. And so you have several elements, not all of them, not education, not social protection, not taxation, not public order, not housing. This is at the national level. And if the results in France are not good, it's France's fault. But you have other fields where the major responsibility should be rather European, at least for some reasons, including facing Mr. Putin. because it's difficult to face Mr. Putin on a national basis. That's a striking example.
I can give you just one example.
Very
For
briefly, because we're
example,
almost out of time.
Chinese tires. Obama said no Chinese tires in the US. In Europe, we say welcome. 10% of the European market right now is Chinese tires. The result, we have factories closing like Goodyear, like Continental in France. This is a decision of Europe that is affecting directly French people.
All right.
And less expensive tires for consumers.
Yes,
who are very happy
less
about this.
expensive,
So
but
there
they
is a
are
trade-off.
unemployed.
There is a trade-off. Yes, there
Yeah,
is a
but they are
trade-off.
unemployed.
It seems we're going to have to unfortunately leave it there. I want to thank you, Laurent PINSOLLE, Stefan Debout, Cyril VANIER, and Yves BERTONCINI. Stayed with us throughout the week for the build-up to the runoff of those French local elections. More news to come here right at the top of the hour.